Hey everyone, today I thought we'd return to a series I never really finished, but I still get questions about. It focused on the different licenses of Dead by Daylight, and how Dead by Daylight changes them. We covered Resident Evil and Stranger Things, but there's still a bunch more to talk about, as well as the original characters too. Basically the premise for these videos was that how does Dead by Daylight affect the different universes it interacts with? Dead by Daylight takes place in a multiverse, and each of our characters are presumably from a different universe. Maybe there's a bit of overlap here and there for the original characters. As these characters being taken very much intervenes with certain events, and potentially results in bad scenarios within the wider universe, and all because they were taken by the entity. What happens when you take some of the main characters out of their own series and into the entity's realm? Is their universe better off or worse off as a result? I get the occasional comment about spoilers for these different things, so quick spoiler warning for every license's story and DVD. We'll also cover the original characters, although they're a lot less affected than the licenses. First off, let's recap those videos I already did. The Resident Evil universe is in a pretty awful spot without its main protagonists of Jill, Chris, Leon, and Claire, if we're counting all four of these characters as being taken by the entity. The RE universe gets pretty messed up anyway, but without our protagonists, it gets a whole lot worse. The main consequence of their absence is that the Umbrella Corporation is not exposed for their wrongdoings, and no one's going to know about them infecting Raccoon City with the T-Virus, and their creation of bioweapons with the G-Virus. This is bad enough, but it gets worse when looking at the sequel games such as Resident Evil 4. In this game, the lack of Leon would lead to the US president's daughter getting infected with a parasite, then infecting the president himself, finally leading to a cult essentially gaining world domination. Whatever way you look at it, these characters going missing is really bad. Nemesis not being there doesn't make any significant difference, aside Umbrella losing an asset, I suppose. This universe without its protagonists is legitimately doomed by the entity's intervention. Stranger Things kinda has a similar situation. Steve, Nancy, and Jonathan all play a big part in the series. The whole thing with Stranger Things is that it's a big team effort in defeating or repelling the Mind Flayer. Our characters in-game are taken between seasons 2 and 3. Without the assistance of these three, the Russian lab isn't discovered in season 3, Eleven dies without their help, and the Mind Flayer infects Hawkins with its rats and probably begins destroying the world. Pretty bad. Demo getting taken probably doesn't mean much. There's other Demogorgons. The last greatly affected and possibly doomed universe I believe is Ash's. Ash vs Evil Dead and its universe was in a pretty rough situation at the end of the TV series, with the world essentially in a post-apocalypse, overrun by demons. Around this moment though, Ash is stepping into his role as the savior of humanity, prophesized in the Necronomicon. So the taking of Ash basically means that a universe doesn't have its savior, and so that universe went from being probably screwed to being definitely screwed. Maybe Ash wouldn't have undone the apocalypse, but he would have provided a better opportunity for survival, and without him, the world is most definitely doomed, making this universe likely the worst off as a result of the entity's intervention. On a more positive note, some universes are pretty unaffected, as there's situations where the characters are moments from death as they're taken. In Saw, for example, both Tap and Pig are taken moments from their deaths. As a result, that universe basically isn't going to change all that much, not to a world-ending degree at least. Same goes for Left 4 Dead, as a universe where Bill is taken moments before his death. Everything plays out pretty much the same. Someone like Bubba being taken doesn't mean all too much either. After the events of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, say, we'd have to choose a specific chronology from its multiple different sequels. Regardless, the simple answer is that the world is largely unchanged. The events of the first film are horrible, but really Bubba and his family have no larger effect on the world, in the way characters from other universes do. Based on how the film frames the events of the massacre, it would likely become known fairly broadly, at least in the area and potentially Texas. Bubba is likely searched for after his disappearance, but it's soon assumed he is dead in some form when they are unable to find him. His family is likely just arrested, and that's it. Halloween's universe is going to be relatively unaffected also, and likely better off as a result of Michael Myers disappearing. If we go off of the new chronology with the 2018 Halloween and its sequel Halloween Kills, then basically more people would have died had the entity not taken him. him. In Laurie's case, it's sad that she's gone and her friends and family will miss her, but the broader world isn't going to be doomed or anything without her. If she had only been taken and not Myers, then maybe it would be, and there would be more destruction. However, as they both got taken, then there's not going to be much change to that universe as a whole. Loomis will get a whole lot more paranoid, I guess. Same goes for A Nightmare on Elm Street. Everything was looking pretty dire after the 2010 film. If Freddy hadn't been taken by the entity, Nancy and Quentin and just about anyone else Freddy felt like killing probably would have died. It sucks for Quentin to be taken, but not much will come from his disappearance, sadly. Freddy disappearing is only really a positive thing for that universe. Pinhead is another pretty straightforward one, mostly because we're only taking away a killer and not a survivor. Pinhead being taken is a net positive for that universe. Bad stuff is still gonna go down, but the absence of the lead Cenobite has basically just benefited that universe, especially as the Lament configuration has come along with him, or he followed it. Either way, it's not there anymore. In fact, the absence of the box may have more of an impact than Pinhead getting taken, dooming some of the main characters in the sequels. The sequels go kinda crazy, but for the second especially, the main characters are most definitely in a bad spot. So I guess that's like the worst thing to happen there. Silent Hill is another kind of unclear one. Executioner in Dead by Daylight is pretty weird, and he's not so much personal to James Sunderland, but is a broader dispenser of punishment. Him not being in that universe is a benefit for that universe. Simple. Cheryl's disappearance probably means very little. Her lore takes place seemingly a couple years after Silent Hill 3, meaning her disappearance will have very little bearing on that universe after that. Her story is completed. Some things may change depending on what she was going to do after Silent Hill 3 though. The reason I didn't initially want to include original characters was because most of them are regular people, rather than saviors of the world like some licenses. Someone like Dwight, say, disappearing in the woods is spooky because people disappearing happens in our own world, and largely the world is unaffected by their disappearance. For basically every original character, this is the case. To the broader world, nothing much changes. To their universe, nothing changes. In terms of killers disappearing, it's a positive, as they can no longer kill people, and survivors disappearing is a negative to their families and friends. Overall though, nothing changes in a larger way, nothing world-ending because of Dwight disappearing. There are characters though that, although might not have a catastrophic effect, still do have an effect of some kind on the wider world, or a higher number of people. For example, our characters with more notoriety, such as the Trickster, Yunjin, and Jane. These were people in the public eye within their universes, in a pretty big way. Even if you don't engage with the worlds of American talk show hosts, or K-pop artists, you've probably heard of some of their names in passing at points. Although these characters' disappearances may not be disastrous to the broader world, they may have an effect on individuals, but also they're likely going to make world news when they suddenly disappear, or when it's revealed that the Trickster is a serial killer. So worldwide shock or mourning in Jane's case, but nothing disastrous or world-ending. It's possible, although it may not make worldwide news, that there would be great shock around the sudden disappearance of Feng Min and Yui Kimura, two people likely very well known within their communities, Feng for esports and Yui for motorbike racing. For a character like Meg Thomas, this may happen on a smaller level. She was a running state champion in Colorado, so it's possible there would be a bigger reaction to her sudden disappearance also. The disappearance of fairly renowned documentarian Zarina Kassir is probably going to stir up a news story of some kind also. Maybe more investigation into the gang she herself was investigating. Maybe there would be some larger word on Felix Richter, as a fairly famous architect too. This notoriety thing somewhat applies to the Plague also. The High Priestess disappearing is gonna be a big deal, whether her people believe she abandoned them or she simply died. Either one is important, and would affect Babylon and its people. Depending on how the Plague or Babylon ended up, they may view it differently. If the Plague went away after she was taken, maybe she's a savior to them. If it didn't, and they all died out, it's possible they remember her as a leader who cursed and abandoned them. When many of the killer characters disappear, they'll likely become legends within their own areas. Legends in a bad way, not a good way. This this already happened with a few characters. For example, both the Hag and the Huntress are almost these ghost stories within their own areas. Although this isn't world changing and these stories will soon fade away, regardless, for some time it's a big and ongoing effect on a certain area of that universe. Trapper's trapping of his workers shook the town of Weeks, Legion's killing of a store clerk shook the town of Ormond, so on and so on. For most of the killers, I guess it's more of a paranoia that they might still be out there, and that's what's going to live on. And survivors, the haunting idea of an unsolved disappearance. Largely no worldwide or disastrous effects though. Alright, well that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed, and as always, be sure to drop your own thoughts or any additions you have down below. Thanks, and goodbye.